Moin YouTube. It's Sunday, 11 p.m. I got coffee and we're taking another walk. Also, since my last video, which was shot in like 30 degrees heat, it's considerably cooled down, which is way better for walking. Come along with me, will you?
Okay, so these quiet red brick buildings, they might not look like much at first glance, but they were once the gateway to a new life for millions. This is BallinStadt, Hamburg's historic emigration halls. Today it's a museum, but back then this was a temporary home filled with hope, fear, bureaucracy and farewells. We'll get into the full story in a moment, but for now just imagine standing here over 100 years ago with everything you own in a suitcase and the future somewhere over the horizon. Okay, where are we? We are on the island of Veddel, which is located in the river Elbe. It separates the Elbe into Norderelbe and Süderelbe, northern and southern. It's actually very close to the city center. But why we came here is because that behind me is the Emigration Museum, the Auswanderer Museum, BallinStadt. And it tells a bit of a pretty fascinating story about Hamburg in the late 19th and early 20th century, when it was actually a major emigration hub for people trying to leave Europe, or wanting to leave Europe for mostly the US, but also Canada and South America. Now, in 1892, a major cholera epidemic struck Hamburg, and Hamburg closed its gates, closed its borders to Eastern Europeans. And that wasn't good for the shipping companies who ran the transatlantic lines, because they actually made pretty good money of all those immigrants. And so what happened then was a man named Albert Ballin stepped in. He was the general director of the Hapag, which was a major shipping company. Hapag means Hamburg Amerikanische Paketfahrt-Aktiengesellschaft. And he was the head of that. And he came up with an idea, because this area here, Veddel, back then wasn't part of Hamburg. It was right at the border, so people could still come here. So he had this huge place constructed. So these aren't the original buildings. The area was much larger, but these buildings were reconstructed faithfully. Like, they're very close to the original. So what he built here was a huge area that could hold up to 5,000 people, up to 5,000 immigrants at the same time, because they had to spend a couple of days before they could get on the ships to get a health check and all that. So he had this massive complex built to host these people during that time. And the good thing is, for the time being, it was really, really, well, progressive. It was not just built for efficiency, but also for dignity. The people here had a bed, they had warm food, they got health checks, and there was also a church and a synagogue. So the immigrants that came here were largely from Southern and also Eastern Europe. They might have been Jews escaping persecution in Russia or Ukraine, or they might have been just poor families from Italy or the Balkans. There was a lot of international traffic here.
So our walk today will take us through the districts of Veddel and Wilhelmsburg, which are both very close to the city center, but they are located on an island and they have a vibe of their very own. So as I said, we are actually in very, very central Hamburg here, and we are on a dike. Check this out.
So here I am walking along Klütjenfelder Hauptdeich. And yeah, it may not look like much, just a long stretch of green embankment. But this dike has been pulling some serious weight, quite literally, for centuries. It protects large parts of Wilhelmsburg from flooding, and without it, half of what you see here would be underwater every time the Elbe gets cranky. On one side, you've got container terminals, port railways and industry. On the other side, schools, housing projects and working class neighborhoods. And during storm surges, yeah, this wall is Hamburg's line of defense. Quiet hero work held together by layers of history and dirt.
I'm almost surprised to see other people walking along here. Now, I'm not sure if you can see that huge fancy building behind me, but that is the Elbphilharmonie. So that's how close we are to the city and to Hafen City. Hold on, let me zoom in on that. So this place, Veddel and Wilhelmsburg, they have always been like completely different from shiny, fancy Hafen City. It's actually always been a very working class neighborhood. Lots of port workers' families and people like that were living here. Things are gradually changing, and I'll tell you a bit more about that later on. But for now, and I think for a very long time, this place will keep its very industrial, rustic charm. So at Central Station, I went to this sandwich place, Krobak, which is all over Germany at every train station pretty much. And I got me a sandwich with cooked ham and Leerdammer cheese. And now I'm realizing I could have just as well said, hey, take the most boring things you have and put them on a sandwich for me. Yeah, could have been fancier, but it'll feed me. So a large part of the geographical center of Hamburg is covered by its port. And what you see behind me there, with the cranes, that is the district of Steinwerder, which is located very, very centrally in Hamburg. And it has a population of about 30, because it's basically all port and a cruise terminal. That's it. Any idea why they put these lifted lids on the trash bins? Let me know in the comments, or else I will ask ChatGPT and get some nonsense answer. So I did mention that this area was still largely working class, and here are some numbers for you. The average income of a person from Hamburg is 39,000 euros per year, and in this area it's 22,000. Also, this area has a large percentage of people with a migration background. So the average in Hamburg is like 20%, and here it's 34%. So the cultural and social life here has been largely shaped by families from Turkey, Afghanistan and Arab countries. It's actually a super nice walk along the canal here. I like this. So this whole district, neighborhood, And also this canal here, they have actually been a very popular backdrop for several movies that were shot around the area. For example, Soul Kitchen by Fatih Akin, and also the Hamburg classic Nordsee ist Mordsee. So what's fascinating about Wilhelmsburg is how diverse it is structurally. I mean, there are huge housing complexes and there are areas that look like little villages, and sometimes those are right next to each other. And although the neighborhood has always been closely associated with the port and industry and logistics, it's also very green actually. There are parks and there are like urban garden districts, and it's very nice. I wasn't expecting this. Also, Wilhelmsburg and Veddel have for decades been largely forgotten by city planners. It was like Hamburg's forgotten backyard. But that is now changing. So I have mentioned that things are changing here in Wilhelmsburg, that it's no longer forgotten by city planners. And let me show you what I meant. From 2006 until 2013, Hamburg hosted a huge urban planning exhibition.
So as I said, Wilhelmsburg hasn't always been on many people's radar. For a long time, it was seen as this forgotten patch of land between the Elbe's northern and southern branches. More known for its industry, social housing and flood risk than for anything remotely cool. But then came the IBA. No, not the cocktail competition. I'm talking about the Internationale Bauausstellung, the International Building Exhibition. From 2006 to 2013, the city of Hamburg used this as a massive urban development project. But not in a generic, let's throw up some luxury condos way. The IBA was a serious attempt to rethink how cities should grow, socially, sustainably, and smart. Wilhelmsburg became the test lab. And suddenly, things started to change. Eco-houses popped up, like actual buildings that produce more energy than they consume. Schools were redesigned with sustainability in mind, public spaces were created or revamped with parks, playgrounds, and even an elevated promenade above the dike. It wasn't just about architecture, it was about connecting people. Connecting Wilhelmsburg to the rest of Hamburg. Not just physically through better transport, but mentally, changing the image, changing the story. The IBA also championed cultural diversity, which makes sense because Wilhelmsburg is one of the most diverse districts in Hamburg. People from all over the world live here. So the IBA said, let's not hide that, let's make it part of the identity. Schools became multilingual, projects promoted inclusion. The whole vibe of the place started shifting from forgotten edge to future-forward neighborhood. Was everything perfect? Of course not. Some critics say the rents went up, gentrification rolled in, and not every promise was kept. That's fair. But there's no denying that Wilhelmsburg is no longer what it used to be, and a lot of that change traces back to the IBA. Today, when you walk through Wilhelmsburg and see a World War II bunker turned into a power plant, or kids playing in a park where an abandoned lot used to be, you're seeing the IBA's legacy in action. Urban experiments don't always succeed. But this one, it made Hamburg's largest island feel like part of the city again.
All right, that's it. I arrived at Rapid Transit Wilhelmsburg and will hop on a train and get home. My first two videos went live just an hour ago and I want to see how they do. I hope you enjoyed this and I hope I will see you around next time. Take care for now.